Hi there, this is Miss Wesley. We're ready for Unit 5, Skill 2, Part C, which is all about right triangle similarities. So far you guys have seen triangles that are similar, but we're going to focus on today what's special about when you have right triangles that are all similar. So our essential question for today is how can we find the missing side or altitude of a right triangle? So be sure to take a minute to jot that down. That's the question that you want to be able to answer by the end of this lesson. So it's a good habit to get in that once you're done with the lesson, you go back and look at the essential question, and that's what you should write your summary on. And if you can't answer this question, then that means you have to do a little bit more investigating or uncovering of what it is that we actually need to know. So looking at this first example right here, it says given right triangle ABC with altitude CD drawn. So remember, altitudes mean that we have perpendicular lines, and we know that perpendicular lines make these wonderful right angles. So we'd get a right angle here, but it also said with right triangle ABC, so that's why we have another right angle here, because it was a right triangle to begin with, and then we drew an altitude in. So there happened to be two different areas of this triangle that have right angles in them. So what's going to be really important for you to know and be able to do in this lesson, is to be able to separate, redraw, and label the triangle above into three separate triangles. All right, that is going to be key. Three separate triangles, but they have to be oriented the same way. So I'll show you what I mean by that. And what you really want to pay close attention to is the short side versus a long side when you redraw and label the triangle. So I'll talk you through all of that here. I'm going to start by redrawing just this big outside triangle. So you're going to hear me talk about three different types of triangles. You're going to hear me refer to a big triangle first. Then you're going to hear me refer to the middle triangle. Oh, not sure what happened there. Go with it. And then you're going to hear me refer to the small triangle. So we're always going to draw out all three of them. So like I said, I always start by redrawing the big triangle. So A, C, B, and I always want to make sure I take a good look at where my right angle is. So my right angle is down here in C. So when I go ahead and draw that in, here's my big triangle. C is in the corner. All right, and then notice that AC is my longer side, so that means A is going to go up here, B is going to go down here because this side is shorter than this side here. So I have A and I have C. So that's my big triangle because there was an angle here in C. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw my middle triangle, which is this one here. So it's kind of like the medium size. That's what I wanted to write. Excuse me. Not middle. I knew I was using the wrong word. I just couldn't think of it. Let's try that again. Hopefully you wrote on pencil. Medium triangle. There we go. So this triangle right here is my medium triangle. Now again, I have to orient it the same way as this, and I stood this triangle up. So when I stand this triangle up, AD is going to be going up and down because D is where my right angle is this time. So if I draw that one out, here's my right angle, which is at D. Again, my long side is A, and then the shorter side was C. Okay? And now I'm left with a small triangle. So my small triangle is already standing up. All right, notice D is the right angle, DB is the short side, CD is the long side. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw my small triangle again. This is D, this one's B, and this one's C. So if I was to take a second and do them in different colors for you, which I probably should have done from the start, my apologies. A, C, B. That's my green triangle here, and I just noticed that I have two C's. Did anyone catch that? This should be a, let's see if I can erase this. Yep, this should be a B. There we go. All right, my medium triangle, which was this one here, ADC, ADC, and then my small triangle, CDB, CDB. Perfect. So for all these problems, you're going to end up drawing three separate triangles like this. And let's go ahead and try this one down here to see if you can go ahead and draw it on your own. So for this question, it says given right triangle QRS with altitude QT, separate and redraw and label the three right triangles all oriented the same way. So what I want you to do is go ahead and draw these triangles, but for this original shape down here. So you have your big triangle, your medium triangle, and your small triangle. I want you to press pause right now, try and draw them on your own. When you're ready to check it, press play, and then if you get stuck or you want to see if you were right or wrong, you can check it there. But please press pause now so you can try it on your own. Okay, so hopefully you try those on your own if I go through them quickly with you to see how you did. My big triangle here, Q, S, and R, I have right here, Q, S, and R, again with my right angle in the bottom left corner. If I move on to my medium triangle, T is in the corner this time, so I have Q, T, and R, Q, T, and R. And then my small triangle, S, T, Q, again with T being in the corner, S, T, Q. All right? So if you had that down, the next part's going to be fairly straightforward. So I'm going to turn the page and we're actually going to look at what we do when there's actual numbers involved. Okay, so in example 2 here it says, given right triangle man with altitude AE drawn, it says NE is 5, which they already labeled for us down here. NE is 5. AN is 9. AN is 9. Determine the value of MN. So notice that I already wrote in here for you guys that MN is what we're trying to find. So before I do anything else, I'm going to notice here that I have a right triangle within a right triangle, so that's my clue that I have to redraw my 3 separate triangles. So I'm going to start by redrawing the big triangle, M-A-N, all right, and A is where my right angle is, so that's going to go in the corner. So A is down here, M is the long side, so that's going to go up here, N is the short side. All right, I'm going to focus now on drawing my medium triangle. M-E-N, where this time E is in the corner. So E is my right angle, M is still the long side, A is still the short side. And if you're wondering how I'm getting that from E's perspective, M-E is definitely longer than A-E, so that's why I did M-E up top, A-E on the bottom. And then my last one, let's go yellow, N-E-A, my small triangle, excuse me, with my right angles at E, so it went N, E, A, and that one was already lined up for us, which is kind of nice. All right, so now at this point, I have to go back and put in some numbers and pieces here. So for instance, we knew AN was 9. So anywhere they see AN, so here and here, I'm going to go ahead and put 9s there. So a 9 here, and a 9 here. All right, the next one. Anywhere I see an EN, I'm going to put a 5. Let's see. EN is just down here, so I'm going to put a 5 there. And the last thing is MN. So this entire side here, I'm going to give an X. So anywhere I see an MN, which is only one spot here, I'm going to label that X. So the whole reason that I just did this is if you guys look, it's pretty easy to figure out how we need to set our proportion up. All right, so based on what I have here, I'm going to take X over 9 equals 9 over 5. And at this point, I'm all set to go ahead and cross multiply. So if I do that, 9 times 9 is 81. 5x, or 5 times x is 5x. Divide both sides by 5. X equals, we are going to end up here with 16.2. And that is, in fact, our answer. Okay? So essentially here, there's really 3 steps. Separate and redraw your triangles. Label the information. Step 3, set up your proportion and solve. Okay? Let's try it again if you weren't too sure of what I did on that example. And hopefully you'll start to pick it up. All right, so this one says, given right triangle ABC, the altitude AC is drawn. If AB is 12, so I'm going to come over here and put a 12 in. AB is 12. AD is 9. And BD, so this entire piece here is 15. Determine the length of AC. So my X is in the middle this time. All right. So I labeled everything that the picture told me. Now I'm going to go back and do what we were doing before, which is I'm going to redraw 3 separate triangles. So I'm going to start here this time with, again, as always, my big triangle. Thankfully, this one's kind of already drawn how I want it to be, so it's just a matter of copying it. So A is in the corner, B is up top, D is on the right. Okay. My middle triangle, This one I kind of got to do a little flip on because I want C to be my right angle. So C's here, C goes to A, and the top piece was again B. Also, if you notice, these two letters should always match. If we did that up here as well, M and N, they match. Where's my M and N? There we go. And down here, B and B. All right, last one. I guess I gotta go purple this time. I got this little triangle, so C's in the corner. And then my little side was D, and that top letter was A. All right, so again, triangles are drawn, step 1. Step 2 is copy your information over. So if I focus first on BA, anywhere I see BA, I'm going to put that wonderful 12. All right, next side, I'm going to go down here, AD. So anywhere I see AD, I'm going to write in the 9. And BD, so this side length I'm only going to have once because I was just in my big triangle, so that was a 15. And then what I'm actually looking for here, we can't forget about that one, is AC, which is X. So AC is here and here, so there's actually going to be an X in 2 spots. Oh, that doesn't look pretty. Let's try that again. That's better. So now at this point, you'll notice that we have a lot going on here, so it's not as easy to recognize which triangles and which numbers we should use. So for instance, you have to make sure you're only focused on 2 triangles, but those 2 triangles have to have the same information. So for instance, if I want to use my purple triangle, my blue triangle, yes, the 9 goes with the 12, but this X isn't in the same spot as this X is. So that's a clue that I can't use these 2 triangles as a pairing. Okay. What I could do though is I could use my blue triangle and my yellow triangle because I have 12 and 15 that go together, and I also have an X and a 9 that go together. So I'm going to use that as my setup here. So I'm going to do 15 over 12 equals 9 over X. Now, if you did that backwards, if you did 12 over 15 equals X over 9, that's fine. All right, there's a lot of different ways to set these proportions up. From here, I'm simply going to cross multiply. So 15 times X is just 15X. 12 times 9 is going to leave me with 108. Divide both sides by 15. We get X equals 7.2. And again, I'm going to box that so the grader knows that that is my answer. Now, one other option that you could have done if you were wondering here why I picked my blue and my yellow triangle, you could have also, for those of you that have inquiring minds, I could have used 9 and 15, and then I could have used X and 12. And if you would have done that, you would have gotten the same exact answer that we did. Again, the only thing that you have to make sure of is that you're only using 2 triangles and that those 2 triangles both have the same corresponding pieces. Okay? So that's the main idea of this lesson here, is picking up on the fact that separate and redraw, label the side lengths, set up your proportion, and solve. So let's do one more example here on this last page that came straight from a Regents test. Okay, here we go. It says in triangle RST shown below, the altitude SU is drawn to RT. It says if SU is H, which they already labeled for us, and UT is 12, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. UT is 12, and RT is 42, so R to T is 42. 12 didn't show up. What value of H will make RST a right triangle with RST as a right angle? So it's asked sort of differently. Like if you actually look at the question, it's saying what value of H will make RST a right triangle with RST as a right angle. There's a lot of extra words in there. Essentially, all we're kind of focusing in on is which value of H. Okay, so we're trying to find what is H so that we would know that there's actually a right angle here and a right angle here like we're used to. So the first thing I'm going to notice this picture is I don't have a ton that's labeled, but something you do want to pick up on is that they told you this piece right here is 12, but they told you this entire length, these 2 pieces together, is 42. So if I want to find this missing piece in here, and I know that these two together have to add to 42, this is only 12. You might already be doing the math in your head. I just need to take 42 minus 12, and I'm going to be left with wonderful 30. So that's an extra number that I'm going to add in to make our lives a little bit easier. Okay. So at this point, I'm noticing that I have right triangles. I actually have 3 of them, small, medium, and large. So I'm going to stop here and go ahead and redraw my triangles. So why don't you pause the video, see if you can draw your triangles as well, and then press play when you're ready and see if our pictures match. Okay, so if you separated and redrew your triangles, hopefully you have what I have here, my big, medium, and small triangle. Make sure that you have H in 2 spots. Up here, H was going from U to S, or S to U, so that showed up in 2 spots. SU was here, SU was here. So based on what I have labeled, it's pretty clear to me what proportion we're going to use, which is the nice thing if you separate and redraw. 30 is going to go with this H, and then H is going to go with the 12. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and start writing my proportion out. So we have 30 over H equals H over 12. From here I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So H times H gives us H squared. Ooh, what happened there? H squared, let's try that again. 30 times 12 is actually going to give us 360, I believe, yeah. 360. So at this point, we haven't run into this yet, but H squared, so you have to think back to your wonderful algebra days. How you undo a squared is you simply square root both sides. So the square root of H squared is H. Now the square root of 360, that comes out to be something like 18.9736. So if you were to look at this number and compare it to our choices up here, these numbers don't look like that 18.9 that we got. So one option that you have is to type each of these into the calculator, hit enter, and see which one gives you 18.9 like we got down here. Okay. The other option that you do want to make sure you know how to do, because if this was a short answer question, you wouldn't be able to use that trick, is be able to break down a radical. So be able to break down this 360. So I'll show that to you off to the side here. If you want to try the calculator, you can, but then just make sure you also get this down. So if I have the square root, let me get back on my pen, sorry about that, square root of 360. What you want to do is you have to find the biggest perfect square that can go into 360. So my list of perfect squares, if you think about them, 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, so on and so forth. I'm just going to list them out here at the bottom of the paper. Wrote that backwards. That's 7s, 8s is 64, 81, and 100. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for which number in this list can divide evenly into 360, but I want the largest number in this list. So for instance, 9 can go into 360, but it's not going to be the largest. But 36 is going to be able to go in. So that would mean I'm going to take 36 out. So if I did 360 divided by 36, I'm left with 10. And now the whole reason I did that is because the square root of 36 is just a regular plain old 6. Like, square root of 36 is 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. But I don't know what the square root of 10 is, so that gets left alone. And this right here would be my answer. And if I go up, that is in fact one of our choices. And again, if you were to use the calculator method, you would also have seen that. So, like I said, this example came straight from a Regents exam. It's not going to tell you to separate and draw out 3 triangles like we did here, but that is something that you need to recognize on your own. So please take out your pink practice packet, try some practice problems, and when you are confident and have checked your answers, you can move on to the quiz. See ya!